The subject of Roman Reigns. Heel or babyface. Vince is trying to push this young man as a babyface for quite some time. They started off, the Shield, Seth Rollins, Dean Ambrose, and Roman Reigns as a Shield, started off as a hot commodity. They had true heat as, the Shield. Then they turned cool. Then they split them up. They all went their ways. Roman Reigns was the chosen one to be that guy, the number one baby. And here we are. And he's heading in WrestleMania 32, wrestling Triple H for the World Heavyweight Championship. He's getting met at the television tapings with a mixed reaction, a lot of boos. I'm told at the house shows he's mainly cheered. What would you dissect what you know of the Roman Reigns situation with regards to how he's been pushed, how he's perceived by the fans, and what's your take on it?
Yeah, Steve, that's a great question, and I have some very, very, very specific takes on it because I can't help but to watch and be sitting in the seat. Let me first say I'm a huge fan of Roman Reigns. Okay, let me also say I knew he was the chosen one. And knowing Vince McMahon, by God, he is going to be my babyface champion, whether you like it or not. That's Vince. And so I know all that going in. I understand all that. Now, it goes back to Royal Rumble 96. Steve, I have to be honest with you. That Royal Rumble match and the final 4 or 5 in that match was the most horribly booked thing I ever saw in my life, because when it was down to the last 4 or 5, there was only one guy that could possibly win. So they set up Reigns to be booed out of the building to begin with. It had nothing to do with him. The finish, Patterson would have never, ever in his wildest dreams done that. There should have been 5 people in that ring and anyone could have won. But what Vince tried to do was, I got to make Roman the babyface, so I'm going to have Kane beating him up and Big Show beating him up. Meanwhile, everybody at home is saying, Kane and Big Show ain't winning the Royal Rumble, bro. Yeah. So they booked him to get booed out of the building because it was so predictable. Steve, they're in Philadelphia. They bring Rock in and everything, try to get the guy over. Meanwhile, they buried him with their own booking. But now at the end, I'll never forget this picture. He gets on that second rope and they're booing him out of the building. Steve, if I'm still writing at that time and I'm standing next to Vince and I'm hearing this, I am telling Vince and begging Vince, buzz Earl, tell Earl to tell Reigns to flip off the crowd. Tell Reigns to tell the fan. Bro, the fact that they're booing you out of the building and you're being forced to stand on the second rope and try to be a babyface. Steve, again, put yourself in that position. Yeah. You've been there. He's trying to be a babyface there. I would have had him say, F you. And then I would have organically gone from there. Okay, right. That's what I would have done. Steve, here's what I see every time I see Reigns cut a promo. And you'll appreciate this, bro. Every time I see him go out there and start cutting his promo, as somebody that has written and produced hundreds of guys, Steve, what I see is he's immediately on the defensive. He's immediately afraid, I can't make a mistake here. I can't say the wrong thing. If I make a mistake, I'm going to go in the back and I'm going to be yelled at. Or he's on the defensive. Bro, you can't perform being on the defense. You can't perform being afraid to make a mistake. It's like a batter going up to the plate, being afraid he's going to strike out. And that's the situation they've put him in. He's afraid of his failure rather than having the freedom to just be himself, be comfortable, be him. Whatever comes out, however the people adjust to it, we'll monitor that and go with that. But Steve, you know better than anybody. If you go out there with the mindset of, I can't make a mistake, don't even bother giving the promo. Don't even bother giving a promo because that's how it's going to come across.
Dude, that is a very, very interesting dissection and a very good point because I broke it down as, he just doesn't emote enough. But and what I'm trying to say is what you're hitting right on the head. He is defensive. He's trying to be perfect. He doesn't want to fail. He doesn't want to say the wrong thing. And so, dude, you know from all the Stone Cold promos, I didn't give a rat's ass if I stuttered, if I said something wrong. I'm just going to say it again because it never was about being perfect. It was just about evoking an emotional response, those people investing in me. And dude, I wasn't the chosen one. So it wasn't like I had it wasn't just handed to me. I had to start earning it. So, dude, I was going out on a limb. I'm not making this about me, but I mean, that's a very interesting point you make there because I just didn't think, there's just not enough fire. But it's not just within his promo. I would dare say it's also within his work.
Yeah, yeah.
Just channel it out and put it out there. And be offensive with it. I mean, that means, like you said, be on offense. Don't be on defense. Don't be afraid. Just go out and do it.
Steve, this is where, and let me just get this in, because I probably tell this story more than any other story I tell, Steve, because it's about you. And listen, I can sit here all I want, and I could say, Roman Reigns doesn't write the show. Roman Reigns isn't putting the handcuffs on itself. It's creative. And, bro, let's face it. When I say it's creative, I'm saying it's Vince. Vince has the final say. So forget about the 20 puppets. It's freaking Vince McMahon. So I can sit here all I want and say it's creative. They're pigeonholing these guys. Everybody is going through the same system like robots. That's why nobody's getting over. Everybody's vanilla. I can say that. But here's, Steve, where I have to put some responsibility on the talent. And I'll tell you this. I'll tell you why, and I tell this all the time. I remember walking, Vince and I used to have talent meetings at least once a week. All of a sudden, here's the ringmaster. Vince looks me in the eye. Vince, not Stone Cold. There was no Stone Cold.
No, it wasn't.
Steve Austin is to never say a word. That's why we have DiBiase there. DiBiase does those talk. Now, Steve, you got to understand, I didn't watch you at WCW. I watched enough of you at WCW. So in my mind, I'm like, Vince doesn't have a clue of who Austin is. He does. So whether it was Bruce or somebody said, hire Austin, he doesn't have a clue. To tell this guy he can't talk, he doesn't have a clue. But I'm like, all right, Vince, no problem. So we start the ringmaster. Steve, I will never forget you every single week coming up to me. Vince, I'm better than this. I'm better than this. I could do better than this. I could talk every single week. Now, with that in my mind, I'm writing TV looking for a spot. All of a sudden, bro, there's this spot to put you on color. Okay? So now I take liberties. I know I could get this past Vince because Austin's just on color. If it sucks, we'll edit it out, whatever the case may be. So now, Steve, you put on the headsets. Bro, I tell this to everybody. Literally, you're given a 2-minute window of opportunity. And, bro, I remember sitting there in that 2 minutes, and I was like, the ringmaster no more. The ringmaster is dead, buried, gone. And that right there was the birth of Austin. And of course, Austin 316 with Jake and all that stuff, sealed it. But bro, the minute you had 2 minutes, that was it. So that's where I do put some of the heat on the boys because Roman, bro, if you think you're better than that and you're better than that, then you need to speak up, bro. I think there are times in the business, Steve, and I think you can relate to this. There are times, bro, you need to take your balls in your hand. And the reason you roll the dice is because you got confidence in yourself. And it's like, I know I'm right, so I'm going to roll the freaking dice. If Vince doesn't see it, it's going to be Vince's loss. It ain't going to be my loss.
Right.
So, if you went into this business to be a wrestler and to be the best that you can be, and you're being held back, bro, at some point, you got to take your balls in your hand and make a stand. Because, Steve, another thing is, when you talk about making money in the business, that's how you go from here to here. But nothing comes without risk. So, some of these guys, bro, if that's the way they're feeling, what do you have to lose? Are you going to be
But
vanilla?
that being said, with everything that you said, be willing to take a risk. Will the system put up with the risk? Because they're so micromanaged, and I think they're walking on so many eggshells that they're afraid to go out on a limb. I did because I didn't care. Hell, I'd already floundered around the mid-card in WCW. Got a chance to go to ECW with Paul Lee. Thank you very much, Paul. It was a real launching point for me, but I really didn't care, but also there were. I wasn't even worried about a backup plan. I just knew I had to do something to make it.
But I got to stop you right there. Because I want to get into your mindset. Because here's the deal: you said I've been ECW, I've been around the block, bro. You told me the potato story with Jerry Jarrett. I've heard it all. But now you are in the big league. Now all those things you did, you were at the top of the game, but you still had the mindset. I don't give a shit. I know I'm better than this. I'm going to do it. Let's face it, Steve, these guys are afraid of job security. They're afraid of speaking up and losing their job. You were at the pinnacle. Why weren't you afraid of that?
I didn't have anything to lose. It was either put up or shut up. And to your point, I knew I was better than what I was, doing.
That's what it is.
And I had, got a chance to cut that promo with Paul Lee, and I had a little bit of confidence in myself. Not a whole lot, but, I did believe that I could deliver. And so it's like I told Vince at one time, and I go back to that story that you told when I got a chance to do the color commentary. That was the point when, we would do 2 Raws. We'd do one live, we'd put one in a can. And that posted Raw, that's when they started editing my lines. The few times that I got to speak, they were editing my lines. And I'll never forget that walking across that parking lot, asking Vince, I said, dude, I didn't say it like that, but I said, I noticed, when the show's on, you're editing a lot of my stuff. Why is that? And he says, well, quite frankly, Steve, you're popping guys in a truck. And, I'm like, dude, if you can pop a guys in a truck, you can pop anybody because they've seen it all and heard it all. And that's what I told him. I said, Vince, you got guys here 6'10", 7 feet, 300, 320 pounds. I said, I'm 6'2", 250, bald head, goatee, black trunks, black boots. I said, man, if you take my personality from me, I can't compete with anybody. But I said, if you give me my personality, I said, I can compete with anybody you got. And he just said, okay, Steve. That's when he lifted the filter on me, and that's when I started really getting over. And so going back to, not to make this a story about me, but we're talking about this process of Roman Reigns and all the guys, for that matter, in the system right now. But with respect to Roman Reigns, dude, you just got to go for it. You just throw caution in the wind, say, what the F, and just go for it. And go for that and what respect. Because I maintained that, you remember better than anybody when Rocky Maivia came in, and he was a white meat baby face with the streamers, and got over bad. Mm-hmm. And it got booed out of the building. Rocky died chance. Put him in a nation, boom. He ousted Farouk. He became the focal piece of that faction. Then all of a sudden, we know the rest. He had one of the greatest runs in the history of the business. But, he had to be hated first before he was universally loved. And I keep saying that Roman's going to have to go through a heel run before he's going to be universally loved, just because of all the things, whether it's been WWE or what he's done, I just don't think you can backtrack from that. The old man wants to push him as a babyface. There was just an article on my Google alerts, why Stone Cold is wrong, Roman must turn heel. And this guy goes on to write this 10-page article and never made really any bottom line out of it. Can Roman Reigns succeed as a babyface? In your opinion, and nothing's carved in stone because the story's going to play out in front of us as the months go by into WrestleMania and past, can Roman Reigns get over as a monster baby without turning heel first, given the circumstances we're presented with right now?
No. Bro, listen, I go back to last January. So you're talking about 13, almost 14 months of damage. Bro, there's 14 months of damage that you cannot take back. Steve, what I would do, and we used to do this with Raw a lot. People don't believe this is how we wrote Raw. I don't know. I don't. Bro, I'm hearing today that like literally they're making so many last minute changes. That's why you're seeing gaping holes. It didn't happen that way back then. Back then we had the show when we went to TV. We tweaked things, but there weren't any huge holes. Bro, if it's me, I'm writing the show. I'm listening to the people, and I'm organically going with the story. Like I said, organically, back last January, I would have had him double flip the crowd. If I just busted my ass for an hour to win this match, you're going to boo me right there.
Right.
And then I would have organically went with that. But, Vince is from the old school, Steve. He's going to be my white meat baby face. I'm going to shove it down your throat, and you're going to like it whether you like it or not. It don't work that way in 2016, bro.
Yeah.
You can't get maybe back in the 80s. You cannot get away with that today.
Okay, is Vince in touch with what people want right now?
Absolutely not.
Is Triple H?
No, he's not. Steve, I hate to say this, and I'm a grizzly old vet. Bro, they're in the wrestling bubble. They're in the wrestling bubble.
What bubble do they need to be in?
They need to be in the world bubble. They need to take a step outside, and they need to understand how a regular guy perceives the wrestling business. Bro, all we did with the Attitude Era is, Steve, we've gone full circle. Prior to the Attitude Era, we were doing Freddie Joe Floyd, the plumber, all those guys. I went into Vince's office and I made it real simple. This is 1997. We've got a mirror society. We've got to bring the product up to speed. That's what it's not rocket science. That's what we did. It was real simple. Here's the problem, Steve. We're 20 years past that, and they've gone backwards. So they've failed to evolve the business, and that's why a regular television viewer, because it is a television show, they're watching this show as being very passé, non-hip, non-believable. You use the word spontaneous. That's how a normal television viewer is watching. You give them 3 hours of that, how could they not turn off the show? It would be impossible to not hit that clicker.
Yeah. All right. Hell of a conversation with Vince Russo, about an hour and 20 minutes worth. We're going to cut it short here, but I'm going to have Vince back on the show. And Vince, I want to do your Attitude Era breakdown